Hi, everybody, and welcome to Be in the Know, Table Games and More. And tonight, I'm very excited to have as my guest Patrick Cottingham, who is with Gaming Labs International. That might be that word that you guys hear GLI and you wonder what GLI is. Well, that's what it stands for, Gaming Labs International. Welcome to the show, Patrick.
Thank you so much, Benny. I got to say, I know I made this comment to you before, but Be in the Know is just, it's become a staple within our organization. It's one of my favorite shows to watch, and the fact that it's free and it's out there just abundantly for everyone to have access to. I can't thank you enough for not only creating the show and the guests that you have on, but for inviting me as well. I'm very fortunate and blessed to be on the show.
Yeah, you know what? This came about because somebody told me that I should do something like this, and
Yeah.
it's really been a blessing. I mean,
Hey,
there's some people.
kudos to them.
Been people that I've come in contact with that needed a little assistance in their career and stuff, and they message me all the time, and I get to do the thing I like to do, and that's pay it forward, because this industry has been very, very good for me, and I've been very, very blessed. And I paid thanks Thursday, as I always do every Thanksgiving. Okay, now let's talk about you before we get into this gigantic mammoth gorilla of Gaming Labs International. Tell me, I always like to find out, how did you get into the casino biz?
Thanks for asking. That's a great question. I worked for between, let's see. So I was in the Air Force, and I got stationed in Las Vegas back in 2005-ish. I was just on my way out, and I needed to start working. And so Michael Gahn was just buying back the South Point. Back then it was the South Coast property back from Boyd. And they were hiring. The South Point was hiring. So I got a job working in the event center, in the equestrian center. I worked there for several years, and then I heard about this new casino called the M Resort opening up. I applied there, got a position, and I worked at the M Resort for almost 10 years. And I was in the slots department, so I was doing a lot of technical stuff with the slots, kind of slot ambassador type capacity and slot technician type. Decided to go back to school, get my engineering degree. And with that, one of the gentlemen that was in kind of a career development position there at the school said, "Hey, there's a company called GLI that's hiring, and I think you'd be a great fit. It's an engineering position. I think you should check it out." And I'm thinking to myself, what in the heck is GLI? So I did my research and found out, wow, this is an incredible company. It's on a global scale, and this is right up my alley. Had my interviews, the first walk through the lab, I was just in Candyland. It was in heaven. It was all these EGMs that are opened up, the guts out, the slot machine interface boards were all over the place. And I did my interview and passed, and started with GLI back in September of 2015 as an engineer. And then in less than 2 years, about a year and a half, I was fortunate enough to move into the business development side where I am today. And as a client services representative, I'm very fortunate because I'm one of the forward-facing individuals that works directly with all of our clients on a global scale, helping them get the services and support they need from GLI in the gaming industry.
And you guys are really great on the customer service end of the business. So so I'll give you the audience a quick overview. GLI is probably the #1 certification company in the world. And what I mean by certification, you just don't take a slot machine, you make it up and say, okay, we'll put this on the gaming floor. The regulators don't go for that. They want to know that you say this thing pays back X on the pay table. They want to know that's going to happen. Same thing with a table game. If you say the house advantage is 1.45, well, guess what? It needs to be certified at 1.45. So that's what GLI does basically. And I'll let you go into it a little bit more, but I just wanted to give them a rough overview. So I listened to this amazing story today. I went on your website and I watched the CEO, James and Paul, two names from the Bible, of course. Anyway, James and Paul, great story. I mean, they kind of fell into the most amazing business and pushing, nobody hears about this story. They hear about Toyota, and they hear about, Kentucky Fried Chicken. But I think GLI story is just as amazing. You want to bring us up to speed on how that all happened? And I think it was founded in 1989.
Correct. That's correct. And thanks, Benny. I agree with you. I think the story it's an amazing story, and it's so neat to when I learned about how James and Paul came together. So essentially, James and Paul worked together for the New Jersey Division of Game Enforcement, and then with the passing of the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act, the question was, how are these devices going to be tested around the United States? And if every state and every tribe opened their own lab, the suppliers would have to submit equipment to every tribe, every state, multiple labs, and the cost would be just cost prohibitive. So the idea was to model the company based on an independent lab where we would essentially be Switzerland. People could send their equipment to a single place where it could be tested against multiple standards. They could see this coming together when they met with the South Dakota Lottery, and the South Dakota Lottery really pushed the idea for them to set up a lab. And the idea was formally conceived in St. Charles, in the St. Charles Hotel in Pierre, South Dakota in early 1989. And at that point, we only had 3 jurisdictions. I believe it was South Dakota Gaming, South Dakota Lottery, and Louisiana Video Poker. And the first Native American contract came with the state of Minnesota. The manufacturer suggested that we look into worldwide opportunities because we were providing a service that they needed and wanted. And if they could submit to one testing lab instead of multiple labs, it was a no-brainer. It would be beneficial for them as well. And this is when it really started to get super busy for both those two.
So these guys got a handful of employees, and they move into this place in New Jersey, I think it was, somewhere around there. And they have
Tom's River.
Three units or 4 units, and then they had to get 5, and then they run out of parking spots. I think there's some part of the story. They run out of parking spots. Then what happened?
Yeah, they ran out of parking spots. So they talked to some people over in Lakewood, New Jersey, and it's funny. They bought this building and it had 50 employees, and I've heard this story many times. Now, this part I think is hilarious, and they were nervous. They thought at first, like, what did we do? What did we get into buying this huge property? We're never going to build this thing. And then in what they did in anticipation, they bought the property right across the neighboring property as well. Well, turns out they filled that building in the neighboring property, no problem. And now Lakewood, New Jersey is our North American headquarters. And essentially, today, GLI is very much a personal services, a global personal services company with over 1,200 employees and 24 offices across the globe. We service over 475 jurisdictions, and we develop the standards that are adhered to and recognized globally.
So I think it was around 1994, they broke into the international market. That's what you just said, 24 offices worldwide. And so, Patrick, give us an idea. What's the certification? What does a person do when they got a product? And I guess let's start off with something simple like a slot machine.
Right. And honestly, what I think what might help here is, and we'll definitely touch on, I think what might help here is, because such a broad spectrum, is we just walk you through the journey.
Okay.
It usually starts out with a new market regulatory assistance, and that's where a regulator or a jurisdiction might be looking to set up a regulatory environment for a casino, a sports book, iGaming, land-based gaming. Whatever they need, we're going to help and assist them, with the technical standards, the requirements, and the best practices around the integrity of those products. And then with that, you're going to have a plethora of modernization that's going to come to the jurisdiction in terms of product. And that's where we can assist with education, training, GLI University, and anything that's asked of us to help make a transition of those products into the market more seamless. Then what some casinos will opt for is a pre-certification phase. And this has been one of our most popular offerings for good reason, especially if it's new product. The pre-certification might be to give them a high-level view on the appropriateness of their product and how it will fit in terms of regulatory requirements and technical requirements. But alternatively, They may opt to go straight to a system certification and implementation testing. If that's the case, that's not a problem. That's where we'll go through a full first pass sweep of testing. We'll test the product end to end against the regulatory and technical requirements. We'll provide a list of issues which they may want to address either now or in the future, depending on those requirements. At that point, then they'll submit any fixes. We'll certify and test those fixes, and then we'll issue the certification reports, and we're off and running. In some markets, however, our reports would be reviewed by the regulator. There might be a secondary approval market where they want to review our results, and they might issue their own report. In others, they might just take our report and give the casino or the product supplier the nod to go live. Kind of moving it forward in some jurisdictions where we talk about iGaming, sports betting, or in-venue wireless, where we're walking around with tablets. We're requested to do geolocation testing, and that's where we're testing to ensure that gaming can only operate or function within the regulatory permissible boundaries. And that might be within the state boundaries, provincial boundaries, or actual casino only. Then there's the ongoing support that GLI provides. As you know, a system or a product, it really never gets stagnant or stays stagnant forever. There's going to be enhancements, additions, fixes, just from it being operational in the field. And that's where GLI will offer the ongoing change management support. And that's where we'll help with putting in best practices. We have change management guidelines. Much like the GLI standard series, we wanted regulators, operators, and suppliers to have somewhere to start so they know how to deal with ongoing change. That puts in a structure for how jurisdictions can deal with products that are going through changes after the certification phase. And that's where GLI, again, will support the operator, the regulator, and the suppliers, so they're not left hanging with with a product that no longer meets regulatory requirements due to changes or enhancements. For iGaming, since it's becoming so prevalent, much like the casino environment, we'll test the platforms, the games, the RNG, and the cybersecurity side. The cybersecurity we do end to end. That means everything from physical and environmental, from a physical and environmental perspective. We'll visit where the servers are housed to make sure that it's physically secure. We'll also do logical and security assessment, penetration testing, white hat hacking, vulnerability assessment. With more and more digital gaming, it's critical that these things are secure and not vulnerable to threats.
So a jurisdiction like Virginia, which is now going to full casino gaming, they would lean on you fairly heavy at first, no?
Right, that's correct. That's correct.
So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, I was just going to say, with that, kind of piggybacking off that, the criticality there. I mean, in iGaming, sports betting, event wagering, we're really testing the same thing as we do on the land-based side. But because it's being provided through a digital medium, the criticality is just increased. When we get into sports, this goes through a number of different mediums because we also have the retail side, kiosk, mobile, and PC. So, like I said, that they will heavily rely on GLI's expertise for the technical and regulatory requirements.
And I think, if I'm not right here, it's not even just the okay, this game pays back 0.45 or whatever. Also, when it comes to iGaming, sports betting, you certify the encryption too, don't you, the IT infrastructure? That's correct.
That's correct. In some jurisdictions, there is a requirement. In GLI 11 3.0, we have a cryptographically strong RNG component baked into it, where in those jurisdictions, if you're looking to deploy, that particular standard does cover the cryptographically strong RNG piece. So that's absolutely spot on, Ben.
That's crazy. And so that brings me to my next question. Okay. So now you guys do all these incredible things and all these smart things that I have no idea what you're talking about. Anyway, where do you find these people? What are you looking when GLI goes out and they're recruiting people? What are they looking for?
And that's a great question, and I got to say that that's probably one of the questions that doesn't get asked enough because, first of all, what they're looking for is a very, if we're talking about on the engineering side, very technical aptitude, in an individual who is ready to and capable of absorbing all the information that's in this vast universe of gaming. Being a company that creates these specific standards and technical requirements, working alongside with the regulatory bodies, it's critical that they have that aptitude to understand and then apply that understanding when we're testing the EGM, because it's all about integrity. We have to make sure that each one of our employees has the integrity to properly test these devices, whether it be software or hardware or otherwise, so that we can issue that certification report, because GLI will stand with their client elbow to elbow. Once we issue that report, it's not just a letter with a GLI stamp on it. We stand beside our clients when that letter is submitted to a regulatory body or whatever the case may be.
So now you find this genius, right, that can do all these things you want to do. They also have to go through a security clearance, sort of like the Pentagon, because one slip, the wrong bad guy in GLI would cripple your business.
That's correct. That's correct. It's very correct. And thanks for bringing that up. I remember, just for personal experience, when I went through mine, I was really surprised. Because, like I said, I was in the Air Force, and you have to go through this naturally when you go into the military for the Department of Defense. And I was very pleased to see that the GLI had very stringent practices and policies and requirements in place that rival that of when you're getting a government job, and rightfully so. We're talking about dealing with a multitude of various intellectual properties. So it is critical that is in place, and that's exactly one of the stages you will have to go through if you're planning to look into for a career with GLI.
Well, one thing I like about GLI is, the people on the front lines like yourself, they seem to have a lot of knowledge, either slots or tables or something. They do know, they understand the lingo, right? Where I find, it's great to hire the engineers in the background who all they got to do is crunch the numbers. That's no big deal. But where a lot of these vendors get into problems, especially with the casino management software, is the person writing the program has never been to a table game in their life, never been have seen a slot machine, and they come up with these names for reports and things that have nothing to do with it. It was the funniest story is when I was at the Hard Rock, we were the beta test for IGT's Advantage, and all IGT Advantage was all these different components that were finally mixed together, and they were all built, they were all made by different companies. So now they're trying to get them all to talk to each other. Of course, one speaks French, one speaks Spanish, it's just like it. And nobody knows, none of them speak together very well. And there's all sorts of problems. Well, the first night we go to shut the shift down, we can't roll. And the floor people, there was a button on there on IGT Advantage that said pause. And nobody wanted to touch it because they didn't know what pause. And pause isn't no lingo in table games about pause and anything. Now there is, they pause ratings, but back then it was pause didn't come into play. And so we found out the pause was closed. So that, everybody shut the game and put the numbers in, but they didn't hit the pause button, which they needed to close the game. And all the games had to be closed before you could roll shift. So I actually, if you go to IGT Advantage, you see the word close. I'm the one who had the engineers change that word.
Change it from button.
Pause to close. Right. And they
did not know that. That's good to know.
They never had that problem again. So it's always refreshing to me when you have somebody on the front lines of a major corporation that does know the insides of the product. And I think that's absolutely a necessity. I just baffles me when people go to make major table games product or business intelligent products for the gaming industry, and they don't consult somebody like myself or somebody in the slot realm for a slot product. I don't get that. But like I said, kudos to your guys. Anybody I've ever talked to on the phone, especially yourself, uh, can answer any question and know where I'm going. You know, I don't have to tiptoe through the tulips when I'm trying to explain. And by the way, out there, a couple I've actually come up with a couple games we're using in Cincinnati, and Patrick's helped me with them, and it's just been a great experience. And anybody who's out there who's thinking about developing a table game, you know, this is part of the process you got to go through, and you get on the phone with a guy like Patrick, and they'll definitely walk you through the process.
Well, thank you, Benny. I really appreciate that. That's truly as high praise coming from yourself, and we are, myself included, especially extremely fortunate to get to work with individuals such as yourself, Hard Rock, and it's really a pleasure to be that representative on the front line. You know, because you know I know James and Paul have been saying it for over 30 years, and you know I foster and have adopted the same culture that you know we're just obsessed with customer service. And I get to be in a unique position where I get to learn exactly what my client's needs are, what's really most important for my client. And then from there, I'm that person that's tasked with making sure that I satisfy all of my clients' needs. So in the past, when you and I have worked together, for me, it may seem like a simple request, but you know, this is something that's critical for you. You need to get, you know, what you need from us so that you can move your product forward. And it's great to be a part of that process from start to finish, you know, and see how, you know, beneficial it is when things get certified and you've got that letter in hand, you got that game that's successful on your gaming floor and you've seen it prosper. So it's great to just be a part of that.
Well, we've found out how important customer service is and developing critical mass within your customer base. You know, God rest his soul, the great Tony Shea, who passed away this week, of Zappos. You know, he was one in a million, and you know, when his customer service people got somebody on the phone, there was no time limit. You could be on there 30, 40, 50 minutes, and it was just amazing. And you know what? It worked. And you know, I worked for Dan Gilbert for a while with Rocket Mortgage, and you see how they've steamrolled the whole financial industry.
Right.
So you know, it gets there. Sometimes it's going to cost in the beginning. It's going to cost you. You know, you got to think, well, I could save more time if I cut that phone call short. But in the long run, it makes all the difference. So let me get to my last question. You're in Las Vegas, correct?
That's correct. Correct.
What's your experience with Las Vegas during the pandemic era?
It's been interesting to put it lightly. I've been fortunate. My position allows me to be very versatile. I can work remotely and still meet all my clients' needs as long as I've got you know, internet or cellular service. For GLI, we've been very fortunate as well. We, at the onset, put very robust and stringent policies in place to keep all of our employees safe, and also create a structure to where we can still perform every single one of our duties that's required of us for our clients, for the suppliers, for the regulators, for every jurisdiction out there around the globe. So, it is definitely an unprecedented time, and I'm looking forward for the proverbial dust to settle, to be sure.
Yeah, I'm hooked on the bloggers, and I watch several of them from Las Vegas, and it's just amazing how it is right now. It's a total different world. It isn't the Vegas world I know and love. And I was kind of fortunate to make the move here to Ohio when I did, but I still can't wait to get back. I mean, you know, part of my whole existence is, you know, going to G2E and going to the Table Games Conference, and you know, we did it virtually this year, and it wasn't the same thing. It was good, you know, but it just isn't that experience of, you know, getting one-on-one with some people that you really know the business, you know.
Right, but, it has changed significantly. To your point, it is really impacted and changed that overall Vegas feel that everyone's so used to. You know, it is not the Vegas of old, to be sure.
And you know, even post-pandemic, the reinventing yourself again is going to be tough, because you know, they thought they had it down, everybody was going crazy building convention centers and stuff. And now the word is on the streets that, you know, business travel and conventions will probably be cut by 50% because people found out they can do a lot more virtually. So maybe we're going to have to go back and, you know, go back to things that made us what we were in the first place, some good entertainment and some good gambling.
Right, agreed.
And you know, I hope we see more of that happen. I mean, you guys know all about house advantage. Vegas took house advantage to the absolute extreme. They had 6 to 5 and everything. 6 to 5 at the, you know, you had resort fees. It was like a 6 to 5 game. You had parking fees, every tax. I mean, if you looked at your bill, I remember going to Tom's. It's right across. I think it's in New York, and looking at the bill, and it had all these different taxes. I mean, it was a straw tax and a napkin tax. And I'm like, oh my God, I mean, stop already, you know?
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it. And you know, being a local as well, you know, I'm starting to think, well, what's next? Are they going to start, is there going to be a toll to go down Las Vegas Boulevard? Are they going to have a toll?
That's a great idea. I can see a toll right there. You know where they built that new downtown arch?
Yep.
Just put a toll.
Put it right there. Right? Put it right there. Yeah. Or better yet, put it right there at that historical Las Vegas sign. You're now entering Las Vegas. You know, congratulations. Here's your first fee. You know, here's your first tax.
I'm surprised that there hasn't been like a donation box right there because, you know, Vegas needs it right now. Well, Patrick, it's been wonderful. Very enlightening. I encourage everybody to check out the GLI website, and I will put a link in the description below. And also somewhere below, there's going to be a pop-up that says subscribe, you know, and that's what I need. I probably have had now 5,000 to 8,000 people view the videos, but they don't all, I only got 195 subscribers. So they need to subscribe because YouTube lets you do a lot more than more subscribe. So hit this button. And I'm not asking you, I'm telling you, hit the button. But Patrick, any last words for the viewing audience?
No, I just want to start with thanking you, Benny, because like I've said before, when I received the invite to come on to this series, I was definitely excited. This is such a great thing that you're doing, you know, and I think for the audience, as Benny said, you know, please, you know, subscribe, get out there, take a look at the videos. There's a wealth of knowledge to be found in this series. And you know, there's a very vast universe that you're jumping into when you get into gaming and in any market that you choose. So having this available at your fingertips is a powerful, useful tool. So please, you know, I would definitely highly recommend taking a look at these, watch the series, and like I said, if you have any additional questions, you can feel free to contact me as well. We'll be happy to get you pointed in the right direction.
That's great, Petty. You want me? I'll put your email in that as well. Yeah, so they can contact you directly if they have any more questions concerning game production, certification, Gaming Labs International. They can contact you. All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching, and we'll catch you next time. And remember to always be in the know.
Thank you, everyone.